The Motor Dream podcast is recorded on Camaragal land of the Eora Nation. It always was and always will be the lands of the First Nations of Australia.
This is the Motor Dream podcast.
It's been a hot minute since the last episode at the end of 2025, but Season 3 of the Motor Dream podcast has arrived. Connor McNally with you, and it's great to have your company for another year of finding out what my guests' dream garages would be if money was no issue. Throughout the off-season, I've been lining up a new range of guests to chat with about their dream garages, and I think you'll like the lineup of guests that I've put together throughout 2026. We'll feature media personalities, race drivers and riders, reigning Australian champions, and people with interesting backgrounds who all share the common goal, a love for all things motoring. So without further ado, let's get stuck into Season 3.
This is the Motor Dream podcast.
For those that are listening to the podcast for the first time, here's the premise of what this show is all about. I tell my guests that one day they wake up to discover that they've received a text telling them that they need to check their bank balance. They then open up the bank app and they suddenly discover that they're instant billionaires. As soon as they discover their newfound fortune, they get an email from this mystery benefactor that tells them that they can spend anything that they like and they can buy any car, bike or machine that they want. There is a catch though. They are only allowed 3 cars, bikes and machines in their dream garage. Sounds easy, doesn't it? But trust me, as my previous guests from the previous 2 seasons have discovered, it is very difficult to decide. Be sure to like and subscribe to the podcast itself wherever you listen to your podcasts, and be sure to check out the entire episode library from the previous 2 seasons if you've not yet done so. Also, be sure to follow us on our socials, which we'll tell you more about at the end of the show. The release of the opening episode for Season 3 has tied in quite nicely if you're a Formula 1 fan, because this weekend it's the opening round of the 2026 Formula 1 World Championship, the Australian Grand Prix. And it's not just the opening round of a brand new season, it's the opening race of a new era in Formula 1. 2026 introduces new regulations for not just the power units, but also aerodynamics. Whilst turbo hybrid V6 engines remain, the way that the power is delivered and recharged has changed. It's gone from a heat source to a kinetic variety. Also, we have brand new car chassis and aerodynamics for the new season, ditching the much unloved DRS system and replacing it with a new overtake system similar to IndyCar, whilst implementing active aerodynamics on the front and rear wings and reducing the wheelbase, width and weight of the new cars compared to the previous regulations. The new regulations have also brought in 2 new manufacturers in Audi and Cadillac. The latter is significant because the introduction of General Motors via the Cadillac brand confirms the increased interest and presence of the sport in the United States, a sport that has long been considered a tough market to crack. With the success of Drive to Survive, the Formula 1 movie, significant investment by Liberty Media, and a new broadcast deal with Apple TV, Formula 1 has not just introduced itself to a whole new legion of fans, it's also increased its presence in the media through the people that follow the series full time. One of those who follow the sport with a deep passion is Texas-based journalist Elizabeth Blackstock. Blackstock has been following the sport for more than a decade, having fallen in love with the sport after watching the Ron Howard-produced movie Rush, based on the 1976 World Championship battle between Niki Lauda and James Hunt. Fascinated by the story, she decided to dig deeper into it and learn so much more about the season itself and Formula 1. Having grown up with cars and motorsport in a car-loving family back in the state of Michigan, Blackstock decided to take a chance and started to write and talk about Formula 1 and motorsport, both in printed and in podcast form. In the recent past, she's been the American editor of Planet F1, contributed to motoring brands such as Race Weekend, Donut Media and Road and Track, and has co-authored a book about Haas racing and their ill-fated sponsorship deal with Rich Energy. Nowadays, she hosts a podcast dedicated to the history of Formula 1 and motorsport from a dark underbelly perspective, called Deadly Passions, Terrible Joys. The podcast itself has gained a healthy following across many podcast platforms. All the while, she remains an expert of Formula 1 to the American audience and will be a very busy person when the season commences this weekend. Her passion for cars is just as big as her passion for Formula One, and I was beyond impressed by her dream garage, which is something you'll have to stick around and find out later in this episode. So I hope you enjoy my chat with my first guest for Season 3, Elizabeth Blackstock. Formula One journalist and historian Elizabeth Blackstock, welcome to the Motor Dream podcast. It is so good to have you on all the way from the United States.
Hello, it is so good to be here.
It is so good to have you on, and I can see you're excited about the upcoming Formula One season. I'm just as excited as well because brand new regulations for 2026, new power units, new car, two new teams when you think about it, with Audi and Cadillac, so two new manufacturers. There's so much happening going into Formula One, and I can't wait for the season to begin, and I'm sure you're the same as well.
I'm jazzed. I've been so excited for Cadillac. I was really hoping that the Andretti Global bid would work out for them. Yeah. But it's Cadillac, I'll take it. It's close enough. It'll do for me. I can't wait to see kind of how they perform, as an American, it's been great to watch Formula One expand in the United States these past couple years. Like 10 years ago, this would have seemed completely impossible. So I'm just stoked that, this like pipe dream we all had back in the day is coming to fruition.
It is quite exciting. And it's incredible to think now we've got two American teams in Formula One. You got Haas, of course, who have survived 10 years of being in the sport. Yes.
Which is impressive.
It's very impressive, like the longevity that they've had, in spite of all the issues they've had with sponsorships. One sponsor not paying them, another one being linked to, a certain politician, which we'll leave out of. and now they've found that stability, courtesy of some pretty good drivers that have come through. The regulations worked out so well for them. The previous regulations, they're now like a good mid-team operation. And now you've got Cadillac with General Motors coming into the sport. I mean, General Motors, it's taken them a very long time to finally bite the bullet and get into Formula One. At the same time, Ford's returning to Formula One. So it's a massive investment from a lot of US organisations, that now see Formula One as an investable commodity. Like, people now love Formula One, especially in the United States.
Yeah, it has name recognition. It's so exciting. I live in this little small town here in Texas, and I was at the grocery store the other day, and the cashier was like, "Oh my God, I love your shirt." And it's a little like Las Vegas Grand Prix shirt. And I was like, "You like Formula One?" This town with like a couple thousand people, that would have just been so... That wouldn't have happened. I lived in Austin when they had the race in Austin in the 2010s. And people were like, "There's a Formula One race that happens here?"
Yes.
So the change has been phenomenal. It's great to see Ford and Cadillac. It's great to see Audi. Like, it's just cool to see we're in this like kind of, it seems like a golden era of F1 investment. And I'm excited to see how it keeps playing out.
Why has it taken it so long for Formula One to really break into the United States? We know they've tried many, many times, and they've kind of come in, gone away when it hasn't worked, and then they've come back. I think this time, Drive to Survive, and obviously the American investment with Liberty Media, has really transformed the sport altogether. And I think also social media has played a huge part in that.
Oh, yeah.
What's been the biggest change?
I think the Liberty Media acquisition really kind of kicked everything off, where it took the exclusivity away from Formula One that made it so unappealing to a lot of American folks. We like our personalities. We like to get to know our athletes in a more down-to-earth way. We want to hear what their favorite foods are. We want to see what they're reading. We want to tune in with them for some jokes and stuff. We don't want to just get the professional polish that was so common in the Bernie Ecclestone era. Yeah. I remember Lewis Hamilton getting in trouble for being on Snapchat, putting a little dog face filter on himself while he was talking.
I remember that, actually. I do remember that.
Yeah. Oh my, it's so silly. And now you've got, the VCarb team that has a dedicated social media hour where they film fun little clips during every race weekend. I think we needed to have those personalities. And the Netflix docuseries, we were all forced to sit down and watch Netflix during COVID. We needed something to do. these fun little European international dudes were like just exotic enough for all of us to be like, that's cool and aspirational, but also we got to know them in a way we never had before. I think it finally like clicked. We finally got it, and it's been great to see kind of the embrace of a little bit of Americana. I know that some folks are like, it's a little too cringe. I get it. I'll hear your complaints about it, but I do think it's been very nice just to see such an influx of popularity here where, you know, we were looking at the US Grand Prix at COTA going away, and now we've got 3 races.
It's crazy to think. And I remember, you know, before COTA came along, we had Indianapolis. And I mean, we got to remember 2005 with all the tyre dramas with Michelin, and that all pretty much killed. That was a mitigated disaster because it killed Formula One for a long time up until COTA came along. And Formula One had this real great opportunity to really capitalise, you know, racing at one of the biggest race circuits in the world, at Indianapolis, and a tyre drama completely took the wind out of the entire balloon. So
one of the things that almost kind of gets forgotten in that too is where IndyCar was, American Open Wheel. They were both Indy, like the IRL and car, they were like dying. They were on the edge of bankruptcy. These two warring factions where like this had played out at Indianapolis for decades at this point. Fans were just tired of seeing it. And if Formula One is going to come here, take over this biggest stage in the United States, and also have a catastrophic disaster where the, you know, sanctioning body and the teams and the tire manufacturers are all falling apart, I think it just hit the wrong way at the wrong time for a lot of folks who would have otherwise really stuck out and been interested.
And that's where NASCAR came along and absolutely capitalised on that for quite a number of years. But it seems now, pardon me, the pendulum has swung back into the open wheeler favour. Not so much with IndyCar, although it does have its niche and it's very popular again, which is great. It's now that it's got its stability once again. You know, everyone's loving IndyCar. Australians love IndyCar as well. But Formula One has really captivated that audience. And like you mentioned, all the social media stuff, Drive to Survive. The American investment with Cadillac, and of course Liberty Media, and of course Haas as well. So like you can't ignore it in the United States. Formula One is pretty much here to stay. And let's not forget, Apple now are a broadcaster with Apple TV, which is a whole new way of thinking. You know, Apple obviously do Major League Soccer, but now Formula One, it's a big step.
It is a big step. I'm excited to see how it goes. I've seen some reservations about, you know, is it going to get the same amount of viewership as they were getting on ESPN? But I do think, like, we are firmly in the age of streaming at this point.
Yes, we are.
I'm pretty certain we're going to be doing fine. And I think it's going to, especially with the way that coverage on ESPN was, where it would get bounced to ESPN2 and ESPN3 and ESPN College. Like, you never really knew what you were going to log on and try to find F1, whether or not you had the channel. So we are already familiar with the difficulty of sourcing F1 in the United States. At the very least, now I know I just go to Apple and it'll be there. It'll all be in one spot.
And prior to that, it was NBC that used to broadcast Formula One with Lee Diffie and David Hobbs. So
the good old days.
They were the good days, yeah. And you had an Aussie commentating it with Lee Diffie. So,
oh my God, they were dynamic duo. I loved those two so much.
I've met Lee. He's a lovely guy. This is during his time when he was doing supercars here in Australia, and this was probably good 10 years before he decided to move to Europe to do the BBC and Superbikes and MotoGP, and then go to America. And he's just made it his own now, which is fantastic.
I know, it's so good. I love him so much. I love him on NASCAR now.
Yeah.
That was a fun change, but he's really leaned into it. It's cool to see his evolution. So good stuff.
Why is Formula One so attractive again to Americans? I know the personalities make a difference, but has it been the marketing? Has it been like you said, the accessibility? That's definitely helped as well. But has the marketing really helped now in terms of that grabbing the audience and getting, you know, huge crowds at 3 events now: Las Vegas, Miami, COTA, of course? Like, what's the secret in that?
I think, honestly, it's the fact that Formula One went after a non-motorsport viewership audience. That we got people into the sport that had never had any relationship with race cars prior to this. That did so much of... When you come in from like IndyCar, you've got an idea of how things should go. You come in from NASCAR, even IMSA or WEC, you've got an idea in your head of how motorsport should be done. And all of those forms of motorsport are a little more down to earth. They're a little bit easier to access in terms of finances and like meeting drivers and whatnot. Still not perfect, but you know, we're coming into this now with people who had no interest, people who were like interested in fashion, interested in music, who saw this and went, this is a cool intersection of things that I find interesting in, you know, the luxury sphere, the prestige sphere, the travel sphere. You add in these fun personalities, you add in the thrill of a race, which is very exciting to watch live, even a boring one, still a ton of fun. And they're digestible, they're 90 minutes. You know, you've got a pretty concise little package that you can tune into, and it's now everywhere as well on social media. So you can tune in, you know, whether you're watching it live or you're just kind of keeping tabs on it. There's a lot of accessibility here, and there's the entry points to it, I think, are there's more of them now than there ever have been. You can come in through LVMH. You can come in because you're a fan of, you know, Cadillac or Ford. You can come in because you just like sports, and there's a bunch of, you know, NFL people, influencers who absolutely love F1. We've got this crossover between the two of them now.
Yeah.
You know, there's so much. I think it's been the elitism that I think we had on the sport previously that really made it unattractive to other American motorsport fans has been lifted a little bit to open the doors to other folks.
I think that the byproduct of that now is we're seeing people like Tom Brady and Will Smith now having race teams in other disciplines of motorsport with the electric offshore boat racing, the E1 series, which is getting underway in Saudi Arabia this weekend, which is at the time of recording, which is, you know, quite incredible to think when you've got people like Will Smith and Tom Brady, like two big names in American entertainment and sport. I mean, getting involved in motorsport outside of Formula One. I mean, no one would have ever imagined that at all.
No. And it's so cool, so refreshing. Like, it just makes me happy that there is this value in this now. This thing that I have like dedicated my life to, other people recognize as being an important and cool thing. Just makes my heart happy.
Yeah. And you've been following Formula One for a very long time, even before the explosion of what we've seen, which has happened, you know, probably in the last 10 to 12 years. Where did your love of Formula One first begin? Where did that spark first happen for you?
For me, it was 2013 when the movie Rush came out.
Oh, how good a movie
I grew
is it?
up. Oh my! I just rewatched it the other day. I was like, oh, this holds up so good. I grew up in like a car motorsport family, so I was in Michigan. Everyone in my family was in the auto industry. We watched NASCAR for a lot of my early childhood, and then kind of stopped after 2001.
Because of Dale?
Not necessarily. So I still remember this, and I'm working on a podcast right now about, you know, Dale's death and the loss that had on the motorsport community. My mom turned off that Daytona 500 when Tony Stewart wrecked, and he wiped out like 18 other cars. It was my brother's birthday party, and we had it on the TV. My mom was like, I don't want to watch, you know, they're just throwing each other into the wall. So we didn't see the end of the race. My mom, we like logged back in at the end, and it was like, oh, something very bad has happened. So at that point, definitely killed the momentum. Yeah. We were also a Mark Martin family, and he was never winning any championships. So it was kind of like, we don't have to be in that pain anymore.
He was a coulda, woulda, shoulda person. Actually, can you believe it's been 25 years since Dale's unfortunate passing? It is crazy to think that it's been all that time and people still talk about it all these years later.
I was going to say, and he still feels like a presence in the motorsport community, in the NASCAR community today. The fact that he is still a household name, I think, is an incredible feat. That's a lot of what I focus on in that podcast episode is just like the branding that went into that, the construction of a man into a myth that has transcended kind of boundaries. It's something I see similarly with like Enzo Ferrari, which is a wild kind of comparison to make, but these are two guys who exist in this tier outside of mortality. That I think is just, it's wild that it's been this long.
It's the same also for Peter Brock. And we were talking just before we recorded, and Brock passed away 20 years ago this year. So there's still a lot of myth and mystique about Brock to race fans 20 years on, and people still talk about Brock. There was a very well-known documentary that came out around the time of COVID, and it actually touched on both his professional life and private life. And actually his private life is quite murky, and I'll leave it at that. But in terms of his professional life, he was an enigma. He believed he could, do no wrong, even when he decided to go down the path of, looking into crystals and getting into the so-called black magic, when he created this little box because he was doing performance vehicles for General Motors at the time. You might know about this. It was called the Energy Polarizer, and he tried to fit it.
Yes.
You know about it?
Oh my God. Yes. Oh my God. I haven't thought about that in forever.
Yep. And it'll be 40 years next year, 2027, since the big bust up between Brock and General Motors, which is incredible to think. And people still talk about the drama that occurred around that time when he had, a chiropractor that was into this new age stuff, and Brock got sucked in left, right, and centre, like a hook, line, and sinker, I should say. And he believed his own bullshit that it actually brought him undone in terms of his business career, which is just wild to even think about.
It is.
It's just crazy. But there's that enigma, like I said, that people still think and talk about and, discuss, 20 years on from his unfortunate passing, very almost similar circumstances, but in Brock's case was a tarmac rally that killed him, which is very sad still.
Part of that, going back to Rush, was the myth of that 1976 championship season.
Yeah, I remember.
So we went opening day for that movie because we were interested. I was a real big Thor fan, so I thought Chris Hemsworth was quite the handsome fella. So I was very excited to go to this movie.
Yeah.
And I walked out of the theater and I went, absolutely no way is this real, right? Like, I'm going to go home and I'm going to debunk this, and I'm going to find out that it was Hollywoodified and that it wasn't as exciting as what they showed in the movie.
No, you were wrong.
Home,
you were wrong, weren't you?
I looked it up and I was like, so the real thing was actually crazier than what they put in the movie and way more interesting. And from that point on, I think I was just sucked in through the history first of like this early to mid 1970s period where there was such a dramatic shift in technology and mindset that I thought was fascinating. And I was like, oh, this thing still happens. Like Formula One still like exists. So I believe I found a pirated stream to watch the Korean Grand Prix in 2013 and thought from that point, well, I'm going to the University of Texas for college. I'll ask for Grand Prix tickets as a graduation gift, and I'll go and I'll get it out of my system. And I went hard. I went so hard for that. I entered a Red Bull contest to meet Daniel Ricciardo because he was my absolute favorite. So you had to design your own poster of what your like weekend with Red Bull would look like. So no editorial skills on the computer, no graphic design skills. I was like, I'm going to learn this and I'm going to figure it out. And I ended up winning it. And we had just an absolute blast. My friend came from Boston. We sat down together at the end of the weekend and I was like, so we're going to go to Europe next year, right? And they were like, I think we're going to go to Europe next year. And sure enough, that is exactly what happened. And from there, it's just kind of snowballed.
And look at what you're doing now. You're a professional journalist. This is your career now. You own you actually, you're a freelance journalist now. You previously wrote for Planet F1 as their US correspondent, but now you're on your own. But you also have a podcast that you host as well, which, it looks at the historical aspect of Formula One. Tell us a little bit more about your own podcast.
So it is called Deadly Passions, Terrible Joys, inspired by an Enzo Ferrari quote. I love the history of motorsport just as a general whole, and thought like
Same.
there's a great opportunity here to tell the stories that I find fascinating that I think get pushed to the side. So I tend to focus on scandal and tragedy, these big earth-shaking moments that have transformed the sport as we know it today. So coming up this season, we've got, the death of Dale Earnhardt as one of the touch points. In the past, I've talked about Mark Donohue, the American racer who was killed practicing for a Formula One race, Jochen Rindt, the only posthumous F1 world champion. And I also, every May go all in on the Indy 500.
Who doesn't?
The Indy 500, oh my God, a pit of lore if there ever was one. But it's been an absolute blast. I think it's kind of the epitome of what I would love to do with the rest of my life. And it was recognized last year by the Society of Automotive Historians, which was very, very exciting for me. Someone who is not yet 30 to be seen as like at least a reputable source of information amongst people who've done this for most, my lifetime is, it was an incredible honor. I'm still like so jazzed about it.
You sound very excited, and it's a great opportunity for you to touch on the historic aspect because, not many, like I'm looking at your website and your biography, like you love the period of Formula One from when it began in 1950, the very first year of the World Championship, right up until the 1980s, the turbo era of Formula One, which is when I got introduced when I was about 5 or 6. And I'm showing my age here. I'm 45 now, going 46. Oh, the grey hairs are going through. But that's another story. You look at modern open wheeler racing these days, of course, with IndyCar, with F1 Academy, and of course Formula 2, Formula 3, and all the junior Formula A's around the world. American motorsport culture, which is just, wild when you think about it, especially when you go to a NASCAR race. I mean, all the barbecues.
Culture shock if there ever was one.
Exactly. I do need to go to a NASCAR race. I must do. I've done an Australian NASCAR race when it was sanctioned by NASCAR back in the 1990s. Cool times, very, very different era because it was run by an Australian businessman by the name of Bob Jane. You might have heard of Bob, but he got the backing and the sanctioning from NASCAR to build, I guess you could say, a scaled down version of Charlotte Motor Speedway, and it's called the Calder Park Thunderdome in Melbourne, and. Yeah, sadly it's no longer raced because it's now crumbling and breaking up. But it was a cool little, it was close to about a 1.5 mile, tri-oval. My God, it was a nice little oval, but it was also a bit bumpy, bit too bumpy for some people's liking. But it was a cool little track, and had the best of American muscle, and you had the Australianized version of stock car racing, which was called Oscar.
Beautiful.
It was so cool, and it really big prize money, big crowds at the time, good TV coverage. It was those things, it really gelled very well, but then it kind of lost its way and died a very, very slow, painful death by 2000. And we haven't had stock car racing, in a mass sense in about 25 years, which is a shame because people love NASCAR here in Australia, funnily enough.
I know. I find that phenomenal. Like, it just makes my heart so happy. But bring it back. Bring it back.
Yeah, we have to. I know there are some passionate people that have, some ex-NASCARs or stock cars, some like to call them. So, it's nice that there's a heritage here in Australia. But obviously we have had a number of Australians race in NASCAR. Marcus Ambrose, of course. And I'm actually going to be chatting to Marcus's daughter, Tabitha, for an episode of the pod. So I'm looking forward to...
exciting.
Yeah, and Tabitha's racing now herself, racing open wheelers, junior open wheelers. Shane Van Gisbergen, I mean, we call him, he's a New Zealander, but he's so good. He is so good.
Love him. I'm so glad he's in NASCAR full time. So it's a fun story. I was at a Monster Jam finale in Tennessee.
We get Monster Jam here.
So much fun. So I was there on site that weekend in Chicago when he came and won, just kind of swept the weekend that first time. And I remember sitting in the hotel bar like, this guy is nuts. I'd watched some supercars in the past. I'd watched Bathurst in the past. I knew he was a good driver, but it was so cool to see him get into this new car and just crush everyone else around him.
He's good, isn't he? I've seen him.
So good.
He's done other forms of motorsport in in Australasia and for Europe. He's done GT racing. He's done sprint cars, I think, in New Zealand. So like dirt track racing. He's even done drifting. He's a damn good drifter as well. He's
Amazing.
very good.
The more talent in his pinky finger than most folks have in their whole bodies.
Yeah, he's very quiet in nature, and he doesn't like the spotlight all that much. Although he's much more comfortable now being in the United States. I think he's adapted to it much better. He's not as scrutinised as he was here in Australia, particularly in his last season of supercars. He was very uncomfortable by that, but he's really grown into his own in NASCAR now because he doesn't have to face that intense scrutiny that he once did when he was here, which is probably a good thing for him because it then makes him focus on his racing.
I was going to say, it all just compounds.
Absolutely. Why American motorsport culture? What got you really into American motorsport culture and the craziness of American motor racing compared to a European style of racing or even Australian style of racing where it's a little bit more professional, it's very, very regimented. I mean, American racing, it's very popular, but it has an element of craziness about it.
I think it was the craziness, the down-to-earthness of American motorsport. Like, I loved going to Formula One races. I went, we traveled the world. I went to Austria, ended up in the paddock for the first time because that was a point where Alexander Rossi was racing. So my friends painted this big Rossi banner and they were like, well, we got to get the Americans to come and meet him and like see the car. And it was wild to me how closed off I think everything was and how it was hard to get anywhere. It was hard to meet drivers. It was hard to kind of, if you weren't ticketed or credited for a specific place, you couldn't go there. And I went to my first IndyCar race in 2015 at Pocono, and I was like, oh, so you can just walk in the pits, right? You can just, I'm camping inside the track, and I'm watching the drivers rolling in the morning. It rained, and the teams are like, come into the garage and just hang out with us, like, get out of the rain. There was this openness to it, and I think the chaos of it appeals to me as someone who kind of grew up, running around out in the woods like a feral animal. And our idea of fun was trying to set as much stuff on fire as humanly possible on the weekends.
As you do.
I think it resonated in a way that, like, European motorsport, I feel like I gotta be buttoned up. In American motorsport, it feels a little bit more, I think, like me, like laid back. We're here to have a good time. We're all here kind of together. We're not quite as, butting heads as a lot of folks are in European and even Australian motorsport. It's more of a family atmosphere, I think, and that's, I think, the thing that appeals to me. It's also the accessibility of it, even just the fact that, I can go to these things, and that there is still an element of this historicness, I think, that you don't see. I went to Watkins Glen for the first time to see a race for the IMSA 6 Hour many a year ago, and was like, I'm here at this Formula One track. I'm camping next to the track. I can, hop over the fence at night and walk on the track. You're not supposed to, but I did. You go to Road America and you can walk through the woods and emerge in this little piece of land that has a tiny little fence, and that's about it. It was this down-to-earthness of this, you see these pictures of historic motorsport. All they've got is a hay bale as a barrier. It was that kind of element of, like, it's still a little raw, still a little unfiltered, still open, still a little amateur, I think, in a way that is very, very appealing to me. I love the professionalism of Formula One, but my goodness, like, some of those barriers, it's hard to see anything on the track. It's hard to get close to anything. It's a pain in the butt. I mean, Las Vegas, if you're ticketed for one grandstand, you can't leave that area. You can't explore the whole track area. You have to stay in your little segmented section. I like to wander. I like to see what's going on.
And there's nothing wrong with that at all, because we all love to explore. And like, you have been able to explore the sport, explore the the industry as a whole, and you've managed to maintain some really good friendships professionally and personally, even within the media side of things. Like I've noticed, particularly in the last probably 10 years, there's more women journalists in Formula One, which I think is a fantastic thing. One of them you know and I know as well, in Mandy Curie, and she's a wonderfully talented woman. She is such a knowledge when it comes to Formula One. She is obsessed with Formula One just as much as she's obsessed with IndyCar. And I mean, people like you and her, make it so interesting. It gives women that want to get into motorsport hope that it is possible to get into Formula One or another form of motor racing and be successful at it. But it hasn't been easy, though. I'm sure you've had your own stumbling blocks along the way as well.
I find it actually a little ironic because the reason I got into motorsport journalism was actually writing about my experiences as being a woman at racetracks. The rude things that would happen, the poor behavior of some gentlemen at the racetracks. I did a whole little thing on my own personal blog while I was in college, and it got traction in a way that I was not expecting as someone who was just like shit posting on Twitter. I don't know if I can swear.
No, you can. You're more than welcome to. We've had a few people that have dropped a few clangers here and there, which I'm happy with. I'm fine with that.
Perfect. Yeah, I was just a fan at that point. I knew I wanted to be a writer, but wasn't quite sure where to go. And that story got traction to the point that Jalopnik asked if they could run it. Later, they asked if I wanted to be a weekend contributor. So there was this element of like, I leaned into the thing that was causing me discomfort and showed and exposed what that was really like. And that was my in. And I thought that was kind of a nice poetic justice. You have these strange experiences, these uncomfortable experiences where you are kind of freaked out and scared, and to turn that into something that is empowering and got my foot in the door, I was like, that's pretty cool. It's still a little tough, a lot of drivers, when you sit down to interview them, assume if you're a woman that you don't know much about motorsport. I'm like, we've got 15 minutes. Don't explain qualifying. I know how it goes. Just get to the point of my question. But it has gotten a lot easier with the more visibility of women that are, in and around the paddock. The more of us there are, the easier it gets. And I like to think I am a positive personality. So
you definitely...
I try to make friends with as many people as possible. Whether they like me or not, I'm going to be freaking nice to you.
Yeah, exactly. You've done a very positive job of making yourself known and being good at what you do. So don't doubt yourself for a moment. You've done well. Look at what you've got. You've got a book about racing with Rich Energy, which is of course the year that Haas formed with Rich Energy to be sponsored by them, and that's the shit fight that happened with that. And then, of course, you got your own podcast, and now you've got Grand Prix gastronomy. I'll get it right. About Formula One and food, Grand Prix gastronomy. So, which is something that you obviously love food just as much as you love Formula One. So you got so many things going on, which is your impact, your contribution to Formula One, which is obviously a great thing.
Thank you. I just think if you love something, you need to just dive right into it. Find a way to make it work. Formula One in music. There's so many people these days who are doing like Formula One in fashion. This is not at all my area of expertise, but I love to see what people are doing with that and how they're breaking into this sport in a way that makes sense to them and means something to them. As long as you've got something, that you are happy about. If it involves food, it's also a bonus because you get a happy tummy at the end too.
Absolutely. And Formula One and food, they both go hand in hand. Goes a long way. Goes a long way to keep people happy. We want to try and get Mandy on the podcast. I have been trying for ages. Been very elusive, but Mandy, if you're listening, please come on. We'd love to have a chat with you because I know you are so passionate about cars and motorsport just as much as you are, Elizabeth. So I want to move to why you got into cars. I know you grew up in Michigan. Obviously, you live in Texas now. People love cars in Texas as well. Everything's bigger in Texas, they say. But Michigan is like is that where you're from originally? Like in Michigan?
Yes, it is.
So your family have that involvement with being in manufacturing with cars and that. So I guess it was hard to escape being around cars, particularly when you're in Detroit.
Yeah, I was in a little small town kind of in the thumb of Michigan. 400 people, more cows than humans. But it was, we had a little small car collection. My dad had his dream car, which was a 1970 Barracuda. Oh. We had a Mustang. We had a Firebird. So I grew up around these things. I grew up in the garage when my dad was working on them. I'm not much of a handyman myself, but it was just being in that atmosphere and around those things that, I don't know, it just kind of always stuck with me. We went to car shows all the time when I was a kid. As I got a little older, like into my teen years, I was like, that's not cool anymore, because I'm going to be rebellious and I'm going to get really into music instead. But there was still always that, it always still was like in my heart, I think. And I started to get really into like 1970s music and the 1970s cars and muscle cars, and was like, how can both of these things be paired together? And it, just so happens that Rush comes out and it's 1970s Formula One. It slotted into those interests almost immediately for me. And I don't know, it all just kind of, it's been part of me forever. My first car was a 1989 Pontiac Grand Prix Turbo. I know, right?
How good.
Cool.
We've actually answered one of my questions that we obviously to know, because we're going to go shortly into what makes you tick about being a cars person. You just answered one of the questions already. What was the first car that you've owned? But a Pontiac Pontiac Grand Prix Turbo, was it? Mm-hmm. Tell us about it.
In partnership with McLaren. It was my parents' car, like, when I was growing up. So I grew up being, like, shuttled around in this. We kept it forever. When I turned 16, it was like, this has been handed down to me now. It was just phenomenal. I think having that license and the ability to drive and take control of something that I had grown up in, basically. I, grew up in the back seat of that car, and now here I am in the front seat. I can tool around the world. I can do whatever I want. It wasn't in great shape at that point. And it went on to my brother after me, and like bits just started falling off for him.
No.
But I got it at like the exact perfect time where, just starting it up, the sounds that it made, the smells of the exhaust, the fact that like it had such good road holding, and I would take the twisty back roads to school just to like have that extra little bit of fun.
Nice.
It was this perfect combination, I think, of things that sung to my heart, and it was also just cool because it was, that's a freaking cool car. If I could buy one today, I absolutely would get another one.
Can I tell you something? When I was younger, so we're going back 1990s, early 1990s, and I was living in a suburb in southwest Sydney, so probably about good 10 miles or so from the CBD of Sydney, which is about 20, 25 kilometres, a suburb called Bankstown, and I was doing, one of my first jobs was being a paper boy, so I used to go out to deliver papers. One of the customers I used to regularly deliver to had always in his driveway a Pontiac Trans Am V8 from 1987. Converted to right-hand drive.
So cool.
I know, so cool. It was that
so cool.
The wedge-shaped look. Pontiac Trans Am. It was just so beautiful. And then he eventually added gold stripes on the bottom sills of the car. Oh, it's just, it was
I'd be hooked.
just to die for, and it just sounded so beautiful. So yeah, and I'm not a GM. I'm a Ford person. Don't tell anyone that. But not that we're biased, but but it was a nice car. It looked very, very nice. It just it had that Miami.
Sometimes the visuals, it's just the perfect amount of striking where you're like,
yes.
even if you don't care about cars, you're like, that's a cool piece of machinery right there.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was a nice car, I've got to say. I never had a ride in it, but it was very nice. It sounded good.
Sometimes you just got to look and hear.
Absolutely. You mentioned before you had obviously had Pontiacs and you had Mustangs, of course, and the Plymouth Barracuda. Was it the one with the push button automatic, or was it just a normal 4 on the floor or something?
It was the push button automatic, I believe.
Okay.
My dad did not like driving manual,
Really?
which I thought was so funny for a car guy. Yeah, he absolutely hated it. When they bought the Mustang was a manual, and he gave it to my mom because my mom didn't care. And he was just like, I don't want to drive that.
But then again, these days everyone is driving automatics, which is a shame in my opinion, because I love driving manuals. But it seems now with EVs and hybrid vehicles, now we're not seeing as many manual cars now. We've become lazy.
I was in America, it's almost, having a manual is like a complete rarity. So I still am not great at it. I bought a car to learn on it, and it's still like in process of being put back together so I can actually do that. We got a Firebird, a Pontiac Firebird that was like $3,000 on Facebook.
What year?
90 something.
So,
probably. I think it was 96.
Okay, so but it wasn't rear wheel drive, front wheel drive, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
With a rattle can paint job.
Oh no.
It looks like it's so fun, honestly. An absolute blast. I'm excited to get behind that when I do. But yes, like automatics are just like they are the standard state of things here.
It's very much the same here in Australia. Like automatics have become the standard state of things in this country, which is just a shame really, because a lot of us, particularly my parents' generation and older, and I'm fortunate that I grew up driving manuals, but we all learned on manuals. Automatics were just that option, like if you were hiring a car, or that was the only option that was available for you, or you couldn't even drive a manual. But now everyone just drives manuals. So we've lost the art, I think, of just being able to drive a vehicle properly. We're just getting them to just drive, and we just don't do much. Whereas if you're in a manual, you're actually making the car work for you.
I was going to say, it creates a kind of connection between you and the machine that I think we kind of miss out on. Like now people tend to see their cars as appliances in the same vein as like a refrigerator or a dishwasher, because there isn't that intimacy of it, and we can't work on our cars anymore because there's so, I know even here in the States, it's like we try to make it so that cars cannot be touched by just like the random person. We can't just work on a transmission. You can't just change a gearbox on your own. You've got to take it in somewhere to get it done. I think it definitely does. As someone who does not drive a manual, I think that is something that I've always felt was kind of lacking, where I knew it would give me that sense, that additional sense of control and that extra sense of being one with the car that I just don't have. And I don't think anyone, of my generation has that at all anymore.
Yeah, it is very much a lost art now, which is a shame. What about your husband? Does he like cars as much as you do?
Yes.
Good.
We met trackside at Watkins Glen. We knew each other on Twitter, and we had a mutual friend who sold us both a campsite for the Watkins Glen 6-hour IMSA race, and we met there. Kind of took a couple of years for it to really start to work together, but yeah, he's when he moved down here, he brought his 1979 Ford Fairmont, so that is added to our collection of machinery that we have. So yeah, he's also big car guy. I don't think it would have worked if he wasn't, because I have like one interest, and it's cars and race cars. And if you're not down with that, you probably aren't down with me.
No, it's the same with me. Like if you're not into cars, or you don't have a respect for cars, I don't think we're going to go anywhere much. I don't know if the friendship's going to last or otherwise. But
if you don't know that every weekend of mine is dedicated to racing, it's not going to work. Exactly. I ain't going nowhere with you.
I like your thinking. Before we move on to what makes you tick about cars, I want to ask, in terms of personalities in Formula One, I love that, it's more accessibility with a lot of the current drivers, but you got people like Daniel Ricciardo and Valtteri Bottas, and they're all now starting to show their true personalities. I mean, Daniel, we know how much, he loves to smile.
A shining star.
Exactly. And he's still, even now in his post-Formula One life, he's still very active, and now he's got other business interests, but now he's a Ford ambassador as well, which is absolutely fantastic. And he always seems to be enjoying life, but obviously when he left Formula One, when he got let go by Red Bull, he looked very unhappy, but that spark is coming back again, which is absolutely brilliant to see. I couldn't imagine life without Daniel Ricciardo. I think life would be boring.
I agree 100%. Like he kind of was the personality that when I was getting into Formula One and modern Formula One that I latched onto and was like, of all of these fairly bland fellas, here's someone who likes to crack a joke, who likes to smile, who's a little goofy, and is willing to be himself. I think of all of his insane facial hair moments at the U.S. Grand Prix. And I was like, I'm always so blessed to have been there in person for those. Valtteri Bottas as well.
I was going to say,
his pivot to the mullet. Did you see there was a social media video he did where he had a case of Busch Light beer and was like using it to do Russian twists on
I
his
saw
kitchen
that.
floor.
I saw that.
What a hero.
And now he's like, what was it? He was wearing budgie smugglers, like swimwear on the beach in Australia with his partner, Tiffany Cromwell. And he doesn't give two shits about
Does
him.
not care at all.
No. He's still got that car that he did the Uber Eats campaign, or the Uber Cars campaign.
Yeah.
He still has that car when he's back in Australia. I don't know how he managed to scam that from Uber, but it's just that campaign just did absolute wonders for his personality and his persona. It was just so well executed by Uber and by Valtteri, because now Australian race fans absolutely love him, and
I know he's become like the default Australian and American favorite in light of there not being kind of another big personality like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I love Valtteri, and I think he will end up racing in Australia, whether it be full time or part time once his Formula One career is done. Whether he does like 1 or 2 seasons with Cadillac, that remains to be seen. But what I'm very interested to see is, will we see an American be successful in Formula One? We know Logan Sargent attempted to do that, but I think he had a lot of things going against him, and in the end, it really backfired badly for him. But he's the last American driver to do Formula One. We had Scott Speed prior to that, but we've had a few that have attempted. Like Eddie Cheever was relatively successful. Michael Andretti, not so much. But we got Colton Herta making his transition from IndyCar to Formula 2 with an eye to get into Formula 1, which I'm still relatively shocked about because he's very talented. He can be in Formula 1, but obviously the rules with the licensing, with the super license, prevent him from doing that at the moment. Will we see an American world champion again at some point?
I sure do hope so. I think the current trend of the way things are makes it very difficult. And that comes down, I think, to the specialization that is required for European open wheel racing. I've talked to Max Esterson, who was in Formula 3 and Formula 2 for a while, American driver, and his dad. I've talked to Jack Crawford. And basically what they've said is there is no opportunity to race as much in America as you do in Europe, because, you move to England and you've got a variety of professional tracks, club tracks, you within a short jaunt of your house, wherever you are living. Does not matter where. You can get there in that day. In the United States, we just don't have that same diversity of, racing opportunities to practice, which they've said makes it very difficult. Like, you're just not getting the same level of experience as your compatriots are in Europe if you're just sticking it out in the United States. So you end up with these, you talk to Jack Crawford, that boy's got an accent. He's from Houston, Texas. He sounds like he's from England because he's been over there for so long. I think, I would love to see Colton Herta make it into F1.
Absolutely.
Like a bona fide, that's a California boy born and bred. I think he'd bring a fun personality to the way things are done in Formula One. But yeah, it's so hard to make that prediction because I think there is, with F1 specifically, the level of specialization required today means that you kind of have to give up your home wherever you are, whether you're in Australia, whether you're in the United States, and move to Europe to make it happen. And in America, we have so many other racing divisions. I think a lot of folks do prefer that. Like, you race in an Indy car, you're not making bank, but you're closer to home. You're in a competitive series.
Unless you're someone like if you drive for a Penske, for example,
Yes.
like Scott McLaughlin, for example. I mean, he's making some bank, no question about that. But there are some drivers that not necessarily making the same bank.
If you're racing for Dale Coyne, like you're probably not making a ton.
I guess if you're racing for Penske or Andretti or whoever, or Ray Hall, for example.
Chip Ganassi.
Chip Ganassi in particular, yeah. Like, you're making some serious coin, no question.
Yeah. The other fellas, probably not as much. And also not as much as the Formula One drivers, guys like Lewis Hamilton with the $60+ million deals.
That's a lot.
No, imagine having that much money. Holy crap.
Totally. Oh, but yeah, you just got to do it. Look, I'm just reading up about Jack Crawford, and he's replaced Felipe Drugovich, who's now gone off to race Formula E, and he's going to be the reserve driver for Aston Martin Honda this year.
Yes.
Geez, if Lance Stroll has a shocking year, geez, I would love to see him on the grid.
Put him in.
And put him
he's
in.
such a nice boy too.
Yeah,
like, he's so sweet.
He's from Charlotte, North Carolina, so he's. Sorry, I don't mean to put the accent on, but I mean, wouldn't it be great to see someone from North Carolina, from the deep south, from NASCAR territory, get into Formula One and actually make a name for himself, particularly when you've got Fernando Alonso as your teammate. I mean, that's a pretty big deal.
It is a huge deal. Like, if I'm going to partner up with anyone, I want the guy with the most experience.
Absolutely.
Like, that'd be a very fun way, I think, to learn. A girl can dream that perhaps Lance Stroll will decide that there is a better future for him, perhaps in the management sector.
Please.
Business sector.
How he did not walk away after deliberately crashing or deliberately beaching the car at Sao Paulo, at Interlagos a couple of years ago in the wet. How he did not walk away from that sport when I really believed he should have. It still belittles me that he's still in the sport when he makes no impact on the sport whatsoever. I might get caned by some people that will say otherwise, but he adds absolutely, and I'm going to swear here, he adds absolute fuck all to the sport when, he's just taking up a seat that belongs to someone else, in my opinion. Yeah,
I agree. He's also, on the media side of things, you are mandated to speak to Formula One, F1 TV, and 2 media members, print media members in the pen after a race. But there are always probably 15, 20 other broadcasters. Most drivers go to all of them. Lance Stroll often just goes straight to F1 TV, wheels his little scooter past the media and gives a drive-by interview and then leaves. So he's just kind of checked out, I think, in a lot of ways. It's
kind of sad, but it is. And I do feel for him a little bit, but you just can tell that he's just not interested anymore.
Yeah, his heart's not in it, and I feel like Formula One, any kind of motorsport, is the kind of thing that you gotta be all in on.
Am we being cruel about Lance, or are we justified in our criticisms?
I think we're justified. I wish the best for him. He's a nice person when you kind of break through the barriers that he's put up. I think he had a very promising future at one point in Formula One. Like, there was that period where he would get on podium, and it was like, well,
remember he got pole in 2020? He did.
Yeah, I know.
That was a surprise pole. Remember that?
Mm-hmm. I think his peak did not coincide with the peak at the teams that he was at, and now he's just, a little bit along for the ride, which you got to do what you got to do, I guess.
Yeah.
But put Jack Crawford in.
Yes, Jack Crawford. Yes, please. But can Coulter Herta make it into Formula One? Can he do it?
I think he can. I think he has what it takes. But I also want to see how he does when he starts out in Formula 2.
Yes.
Just because the car is a very different. The tracks are all tracks that he is unfamiliar with. He's older than almost all the other guys he's going to be competing against. So there are a lot of things that are stacked up against him. I think he is a great driver who I think will do well and learn. But whether or not that ends up putting him in a position to get a super license, I'm not sure. I hope so. That would be so cool to see him at Cadillac. If not in 27, then in 28. The dream duo. I've been dying for an American team with an American driver for years. And I know that like it's never really worked out quite as well as it could have, but we're so close with Colton. We're so close.
He's got 2 opportunities now, Haas and Cadillac. Same for Jack Crawford. So anything is possible. You know, you got 2 Formula One teams from the United States now. The opportunities have doubled. So who knows?
We're so close.
Exactly. Exactly.
This is the Motor Dream Podcast.
I love how passionate you are about cars and about motorsport, Elizabeth. It is so refreshing to hear you speak so passionately about it. But I want to know a little bit more about what makes you tick as a car person. So, we already know about the first car that you owned, which is the Pontiac Grand Prix. Pontiac Trans Am Twin Turbo.
Pontiac Grand Prix Turbo.
Grand Prix Turbo. Okay, close enough. I was close enough. Sorry.
We're close.
Very close. Pontiac Grand Prix Turbo. Yeah, God, Pontiac Grand Prix. That was like a very popular NASCAR back in the 90s.
It was.
Because that front nose, it was so distinctive and so recognizable. Like if you knew NASCAR, if you saw a Pontiac, you knew it was a Pontiac Grand Prix. You could tell by the profile of the nose. Anyway, I want to know the first car that you drove. Do you remember when you were a young kid? Do you remember what car you were driving?
It was the 1989 Pontiac Grand Prix Turbo.
Really?
Yep. My parents had that for my whole life, and they put me behind the wheel one day because I was like, can I like park in the garage? Can I like do that? So my little feet reaching down to the pedals. I did almost drive it through the house. Which was not my intention, but was a decent effort for, I think it was like 6 or 7.
That's pretty good.
But that was the car that like drove it up the driveway and into the garage. That was the first one.
What was the fate of the car eventually? Because obviously it went to your brother and it started to fall apart by the end of it. I'm not quite sure. I think my dad still has it. Really?
I don't think anyone drives it anymore because when my brother was driving it was like the wheel fell off, like the steering wheel and also like a wheel, the whole tire and, all of it. So I'm not sure
quality
it gets
control
driven, but I think it still lives.
Quality control from General Motors wasn't a big positive point of their time, was it?
It made it 400,000 miles before it started doing that, so we got pretty good.
That's not too bad. That's not too bad at all.
He lived a long and healthy life before he started falling apart.
If it got to 400,000 miles, so that's actually pretty good. That's pretty decent. Actually, let's have a look. 400,000 miles. We're looking at about almost 645,000 kilometers, which is in the metric scale.
He went a distance.
It sure did went a distance. That's decent. That's very, very decent. The first road trip that you remember. Do you remember what age you did a road trip that was, the first one you could remember?
So I can't remember how old, probably 6, 7, 8 years old, still pretty young. I remember we did a road trip from our little small town in Michigan up to Toronto in Canada.
Oh, nice.
And I don't remember much of the road trip. I don't remember much of the trip. I remember watching The Simpsons in our hotel. And we did a drive-through safari, which I remember very distinctly because the monkeys hopped on our car and scared the heck out of me and my brother. That was the first road trip I remember taking. We never did a ton of really big ones when I was quite young, but that one sticks out.
Was it just like how many monkeys were jumping on the car? Like multiple?
There were like 4 of them, and they would like reach down and smack the window.
Oh,
so really freaked us out.
Yeah, I'll pass.
This was also
I'll pass on
shortly after we had pulled up to the Lions, and I rolled down the window to try to get a better, like, closer look to lean out. My mom was like, "Don't do that. These are dangerous animals." So suddenly now they're jumping on the car. Didn't help.
that. Learned your lesson quickly, didn't you?
Very much did.
Yep.
Very much did.
Do you remember the first time you changed a tyre?
Ooh. I think I was probably 14 years old, and it was while I was learning how to drive. My dad was like teaching me in a parking lot, and he was like, "You got to know the maintenance, like the basic emergency maintenance." So he jacked up the car, took the tire off, and was like, "Your turn, right? You watch me do it. Now you figure out how to do it." It was not a fun experience, but it was one that I was very glad to have because it meant that, I knew something that I think a lot of my other friends didn't know, and was able to help one of my friends a couple years later when she needed to swap her tire on the side of the road. And I was like, "Don't worry about it. I got this. I know how to do this."
It's always good when you can, help out a friend when they don't even know
Yes.
themselves. It's actually scary sometimes when people don't know how to change a tyre. They rely on the roadside assistance. So, which is not a bad thing, but it really does help if you do know how to change a tyre.
Exactly. You don't have to wait there for however long it ends up taking someone to get out to you, especially like we grew up in the middle of nowhere. If it was a weekend, it was a Friday night, you're not getting anyone coming out.
Exactly. What kind of music do you listen to when you go on a road trip? You mentioned before 70s music. Is that your go-to?
Still pretty much 70s and like 80s and 90s. My favorite band ever is Van Halen, and that has been the case since I came out of the womb. But I also really do love 90s grunge. So it's Van Halen during the day, especially when it's sunny, because I'm like singing along, having a blast. And then when it's dark out or it's raining, it moves over to 90s grunge.
Right. What's your favorite Van Halen song?
Dance the Night Away.
It's a good song. That's a really good song.
My favorite.
I actually Jump, obviously, because that's one of my early
It's a
memories.
good one.
Yeah, it's a damn good song. But because I'm a Queen fan, massive Queen fan, and I've made mention of it a number of times to my previous guests. But you might or might not know this, but there was a time where Brian May went into a recording studio in I think it was in Los Angeles, and he had Eddie Van Halen and a few others, Phil Chen as well, who's now since passed, as has Eddie, and they did a couple of tracks together. So it was like Fred Mandel as well, Starfleet Project, and I've got the box set for that. So you've got
It's
that,
so cool.
and that song, obviously, because it was a cover of the theme song of the same name from a Japanese like anime series, and it was really, really cool because Brian's eldest son was a big Starfleet fan when he was growing up, and he just did it out of the spontaneity, and it was so cool just to listen to Brian's playing, Eddie's playing. I mean, Eddie is a damn good guitarist. It's so good. So sad that he's gone now. So, but geez, he made such an impact on music as a whole. He was a very like. When you think of Michael Jackson, you think of Beat It and that solo by Eddie Van Halen. And he didn't charge a thing. He did it off his own back, and he didn't want to be credited, but everyone knows it was Eddie Van Halen. So that's how good he was.
You hear it and you know. You can't miss that man's playing.
Oh, he's so good. So damn good. Who else do you listen to? Like, obviously, you got 90s grunge. Like, are we talking like Pearl Jam, Nirvana, Foo Fighters?
Alice in Chains definitely is like my number one. I love Hole. With Courtney Love. The only album I have tattooed on my arm is Live Through This by Hole, my like number one favorite. Veruca Salt.
I do remember Veruca Salt.
Babes in Toyland. A lot of the gal bands at the time, very, very angry girl music. I love that.
I've noticed on the angriness of your like you've got a number of tattoos. If anyone goes to your website, Elizabeth/Blackstock.com, they'll see in a very nice dress, but you've got a lot of tattoos. So that must resonate from your 90s alternate era. Would that be right?
Yes. I went through a goth phase in high school.
Really?
Very into Marilyn Manson, very into Nine Inch Nails.
Do you regret being into Marilyn Manson now?
No. I still, every so often I get the urge and pull up an album and have a listen. Not going to be giving him any money at any time in the near future, but
Yep. What about
it taught me a lot about myself, and that is the important thing.
Absolutely. What about 70s artists? Who do you listen to in that spectrum?
I went through a very, I love Led Zeppelin. Led Zeppelin 70s.
Love Led Zeppelin.
Oh my God. Led Zeppelin has been I think one of my absolute favorites for the longest time.
Yeah.
Now I'm blanking on them, and that's a damn shame. But yeah, Led Zeppelin, I did a lot of Creedence Clearwater Revival to the point that I got sick of them. And my brother then went through a phase.
Ooh, that's one way to be turned off by an artist. Yeah. Okay.
Yep. Did enjoy the Rolling Stones. Just
never really got into the Rolling Stones, to be honest. No, I've never really clicked with them.
That's fair. I feel that way about the Beatles. There's a lot of people who are like, oh, the Beatles, love the Beatles. I am not a fan. Not a fan.
That's interesting.
There's a couple songs I like, but that's it.
Okay, that's fair enough. I mean, I'm a huge Queen fan. Don't judge me on that. But I love Led Zeppelin. Love the Doors.
Yep.
Do enjoy the Doors.
Doors.
Jimi Hendrix as well. Do love Jimi Hendrix. But yeah, not a fan of Rolling Stones. I do like Pearl Jam. I do like their like 10 and Photology and versus that
10 is so good.
It is a damn good album. Very, very good album. It's very it epitomised 90s alternative. And then when Foo Fighters came along, I didn't get into Foo Fighters initially, but once Nothing Left to Lose came out in 2000, that really that was a switch.
That clicked.
It clicked. It was like a shift in the momentum, and And then later on I got both their album, like Everlong. Was it? No, not Everlong. It was the album, The Colour and the Shape, and their self-titled debut, and that's when everything changed. So yeah, I totally get it. But yeah, I still love the Foo Fighters to this day. There's nothing.
They're so good.
They are so good. Even with Taylor Hawkins no longer being around, they're still a good band. All right, back onto the cars. Eating in cars, yes or no?
I do eat in cars. I try not to eat anything that's too crazy, but I also usually, if I'm going to do it, it's because I'm in the middle of a road trip. Because I am one of those people who I gotta beat the GPS, and I gotta beat the GPS time that it said when I left. So that means stopping for gas, stopping for food, and stopping for the bathroom all need to be done in an extremely brief period of time, like a freaking Formula One pit stop. So there's no time for me to have a little snacky and just chill on this. I'm not that kind of person. Drives my husband crazy because he's like, we can relax, we can stretch our legs. And I'm like, no, let's go.
You're very competitive by the sounds of it.
I am.
I love it. I think it's beating the GPS clock. I've never heard of that one before. But don't worry, I kind of get like, I'm going to be there at this time. Can I beat it? Can I get there at that time? And then it's like, nah, I can't do it. I don't want to break
I used to road trip to see my husband. I'd get done with grad school class at 10 p.m. and I would drive 6 hours to see my husband when we were first dating. And every time I was like, it's middle of the night. There's no one around. I can get there in 5.5 hours. I can get there in 5 hours. I was trying to cut it down. He was like, stop, you're going to get arrested.
Did you get any tickets by virtue of that?
I've gotten one ticket in my entire life, and that was not during that period.
Really? Wow. Mm-hmm. Very impressed. Very, very impressed.
Thank you. I keep it on the down low.
Well, it's just between you and I, don't you worry. Did you get your license first go?
Yes, I did. We had to do driver's training, so an actual class after school, and it required quite a bit of driving after that. And then you got your learner's permit and had to get 60 hours of driving time, and 10 of those in the dark. So I, at that point, felt very comfortable behind the wheel. I almost did not pass the parallel parking segment that I had to complete for that because we had, oh my God, the car we had did not have power steering. So I was cranking this wheel trying to get it in there, but finally made it work. But it was quite an easy one. There was no highway driving for us. It was, a couple of back roads. And at that point I was like, okay, I got the rest of this. I can nail this car.
Cool. That's really cool. All right. Best car you've owned?
Ooh, that's a great question. So I haven't owned many, and they've all been kind of questionable.
Questionable?
My 20... None of them are very cool. I think
That's all right.
it's a little bit. I think my best one in terms of it has given me the most is my 2013 Mazda 2. It was the car that I bought when I got to college because I wanted a little car to park in Austin. Cute little hatchback. That sucker's driven me across the country.
They're good cars.
It has moved me multiple times. It fits. I've tried an 11-foot bookshelf. It barely fits, but it can get it in there.
I'm just looking at the car itself, and I'm thinking, how the hell can you fit an 11-foot bookcase into the back of that thing? It is
an
tiny.
IKEA one, so it's not put together, but you can squish that sucker in there. You move the seat up. Trust me, I figured it out.
I'm very impressed. With flat pack, I hope. It was a flat pack that you had to build.
Yes, it was. It was a flat pack one, so not a full one. Otherwise, I think I would have died.
And then it was the fun part of building it afterwards once you got it out of the car.
That one tried my patience.
They meant to try your patience. That's the thing. It's so funny. Oh, gotta love flat pack furniture. Gotta love it. All right, the worst car you've owned, was it the Pontiac Grand Prix?
I think it is. I did win. So I don't know if you're familiar with senior superlatives.
No.
But in your last year of high school, you can vote for your classmates of things like the best dressed, the most likely to be famous. I won worst car with my Grand Prix because if it got too cold, I needed someone to help me jumpstart it. And if it got too hot, I needed someone to help me jumpstart it. And all the electronics by that point were dead. It also had no power steering. It was just a menace to behold. I loved it dearly, but I think it does have to be the worst car I've owned.
So it's the first car you owned, the first car you drove, and yet it's the worst car you've owned. That says a lot about the Pontiac.
And still, I think my most beloved. Like, it is all sorts of things.
It's the most complicated friendship you've had with a car in your lifetime. I'm
Yes.
very impressed with that.
I don't think we'll ever have another one like it.
Okay, the next one. The best road trip you've been on. Is there somewhere that you've been in your travels as a journalist that you've gone, oh, this is the best thing I've done? Like the best journey that I've done to, say, a Grand Prix or to, say, for example, an IndyCar or a NASCAR race?
I have a lot of really great memories of road trips. I used to fly to my friend's house in Boston, and we would road trip together to various IndyCar races around America. But I think, honestly, my favorite road trip, I did a solo trip around Iceland when I was in grad school. I had to go to Scotland for a residency, and I was like, well, if I'm going to fly through Iceland, I've always wanted to go, so I'm going to get a car. I'm going to drive the ring road. Absolute mess of a time. I blew the tires on that sucker. I knocked the license plate off the front and the back at one point. Like, it was just an absolute mess, but I had the time of my life. I think it was just the most stunning landscapes I think I'd ever seen. And a nice little, like, it was one of those places I always wanted to go, and it was nice to do it on my terms because I'm a very, I'm not a relaxed traveler. We're getting up at 4 a.m. and we're going all day kind of traveler.
You're very regimented.
Yes. So I got to do it like my way, and I thought like it was just, oh my God, the roads there are gorgeous. The views there are gorgeous. I drove over a mountain in a car that I should not have done that in. I was driving a rental Mazda 2, which is not cut out for the off-roading that I did in it, but I did it.
Would that explain why you knocked the number plate off as well?
Yes. Yes.
Oops. Had you had to do a lot of explaining to the rental people? I did that when I went off-road or something, or did you manage to fix that up?
I didn't say a damn thing. It was like the one license plate wouldn't go back. I was like, it's in there. I got 2 new tires for it. I got the good insurance though, so I'll see y'all later. I just left.
Bye. You're covered. You were fine. All right.
Yes.
Pet peeves, things like stickers on cars or fluffy dice or aftermarket stereos, those doof radios and that. Do are you for them? Are you against them? Do they irk you? What's your...
My pet peeve, and my husband is the opposite, is bumper stickers on cars. I do not like bumper stickers. I don't like any stickers on cars. And my husband is the complete opposite. He loves that. We've got a couple now that have like race car stickers on them and stuff, but it's with my Mazda, I'm like, that's my baby. And we will never, ever put a sticker on that thing unless it's in the windshield parking sticker for their Coda.
Of course.
That's the only one that I allow, but everything else, I'm like, I can't stand it. I hate it. I don't want people to like know anything about me when they see me driving around. That's none of their business. I can't see it, so I don't care. It's my little baby. It's a perfect little machine. Why would I do anything to change it?
I like that. But have you still got the Coda stickers on the car, or have they been taken down?
I do. I have 3 currently in there. So I have one from the World Endurance Championship. I have one from I have remnants of a Formula One Grand Prix, and then I have a new Formula One Grand Prix.
The most recent one
in there still.
The most recent one.
Most recent one.
Cool. Mm-hmm. Do like that. We'll allow that because that's actually that's proof that you've been there. You're in a working capacity, and heck, it's Formula One. Why not?
Exactly. I'm in the fancy lot. I'm in Lot A. I'm gonna flaunt that stuff to everyone who has to walk a mile to get to the track.
That's interesting. I like that. What about the weirdest thing in your car right now? I kind of think of you as someone that likes to be a bit quirky. So what's the weirdest thing that you've got?
I have a stuffed goose in my car, and he lives in my car. He's my Mazda goose. My husband is Canadian, so I bought it as like a little reminder of him. And then for his car, I bought him a little teddy bear and a Texas hoodie. So I got my goose. I also have a Michelin Man, a little Michelin Man.
A little bibendum.
A little bib. He was a keychain on my purse for a while, and then he fell off. But now he just lives in the car.
I like that. It adds a bit of character. All right, a couple more questions. What's in your glove box at the moment?
I have nothing interesting. I just have my insurance, my registration. Mm-hmm. I've got my little Mazda handbook, and I have some napkins in case of spills or tissues.
Fair enough. That's a good answer. Second last question. The best memory in a car. The best time that you've had in a car. It doesn't have to be a road trip, but the best memory that you've had.
So my husband and I bought a 1996 Chevy Suburban with the express purpose of driving it to Watkins Glen and camping out of the back of it. And I think that still remains my favorite memory. We bought a little mattress pad, which fit perfectly in the back. We were like living the high life. It was like luxury compared to camping in a tent at the racetrack. And just like we have so many good memories at Watkins Glen. Anytime I'm watching race car, I think it's great. But like, being able to watch it with him and cozying up together at the end of the day together and like reminiscing about what we had done and like what we were going to do the next day. I think it was just so special. At the place we met, then we like made our triumphant return as a married couple and had a blast. That's
a good story. That's really, really nice. Just so you know, by the way, the Chevy Suburbans were sold here as a Holden Suburban back in the mid to late 90s. So
really?
Yep. I think they're only a limited build, but you could tell it was a Chevrolet by the styling and how big.
Square.
It is so square.
Big and square.
I don't think they really sold all that well when they were here in Australia. But if you're thinking of like a sports utility vehicle, an SUV, that's probably the first iteration of what it really like a large SUV. Yeah. Like it dwarfed a Toyota Land Cruiser.
That bad boy is large and in charge.
Exactly right. That is exactly right. Last question before we move on to the Dream Garage. Do you name your cars and your thoughts on people that do?
I don't name my cars. I feel like that for some reason for me that's too much stress. But I give them nicknames, I think.
Okay.
So I guess it is technically naming them. My Mazda is the Little Red Bean. And our big Suburban is Big Bertha. She's big and blue. I think it's cute. I think it's, if you want to name your car, if you want to nickname your car, if you don't name your car, I'm all for do what you got to do.
Do what you got. Exactly right. Yeah, but that's okay. Bertha though, like there's a guy. Actually, you might know of this story. There's a guy. He's passed on sadly in the UK. His name was Jerry Marshall, and he drove for General Motors in the UK for Vauxhall. And that was when General Motors did own Vauxhall for many, many years. And he used to race like a Trans Am style of car in like what they call Thunder Sports in the UK. And he raced one called Big Bertha. And then there was a touring car, like a saloon car variant called Baby Bertha. So
That's cute.
it is such a cool, and he, like, Jerry Marshall was a fairly portly kind of guy. Like, he was a fairly big bloke, but he had this charisma and personality that was larger than life. And he was a very, very good driver as well, which made it all the more mystique and very popular. But he was such a, big personality, and the cars that he drove, and because the nickname Bertha, Big Bertha and Baby Bertha, I mean, it just suited his personality so well. So
I love that.
It is cool.
It's a good sturdy name.
It is. It is a damn good sturdy name. I love it. Okay, Elizabeth Blackstock, this is the reason why we got you on the podcast, to talk about Formula One, amongst other things. You wake up one morning and you get a text saying you need to check your bank balance. Initially, you think it must be some kind of scam from India or somewhere in the Philippines, and you think, oh, is this one of these call center types trying to scam
The
money?
African prince wants to give me some money?
Like a Nigerian prince, like the Nigerian prince that sponsored Arrows back in the 1998. Remember that? That's a story in itself. But then you do get a bit of curiosity and you decide to check your bank balance, and sure enough, as you open your bank app, you find out it's true. You do have a lot of money dumped into your bank account. You've become an instant billionaire. And you think, how did this happen? Why have I got this money? Is this some kind of joke? But then you get an email from this mystery benefactor that says you can buy any car, bike or machine that you want, but you're only allowed 3 in your dream garage. So with that in mind, what is the first car, bike or machine you would like to have in your dream garage, Elizabeth?
I would like a 1969 Ford Mustang Fastback. Ideally with the Coyote V8 engine.
Oh, yes. Yes. Oh,
For some reason, I don't know why, the Mustang Fastbacks have been, from when I was a kid, I loved them. I think I had a Hot Wheels of one, and I think that was why. I just thought the coolest machines. I love, like, the boxiness of them. I love the way they look. I love American muscle cars. I'm a real sucker for the American muscle cars. And for me, that was like kind of the first one that I really fell in love with.
I love it. And I'm being a Ford man, I love them. And I do love the Mustangs. And we're talking about the Mark I here with the Coyote motor in it.
Yes.
Built between 1968 to 1978. So it was built in 68 for the 69 model year. But yeah, basically a 10-year period. What can you say about it? It's just so amazing. And when you think about it, like, there were 6 different performance models available. Like, you got the GT, the Boss 302, the 429, which is the 7-litre motor, the Shelby GT350 and the 500, plus the Mark I. So you had a choice of going from a 5.8 litre 351 Windsor or Cleveland V8. Then you had a 390, which was a 6.4 litre, or the 7 litre, which was the 428. So which one would you? So the Coyote motor, you would put that in there. What's the reason behind the Coyote?
AJ Foyt got the racing legacy there.
Yeah, that's nice. Yep. Was like AJ Foyt one of your heroes growing up?
Not really. I think he's a person that I've, like, come to appreciate as I've grown older as a personality. I have an autobiography that he wrote, I think in the late 70s, early 80s. And it is just an absolutely wild ride. I think the way that he describes things, I fell in love with it. If you read enough motorsport autobiographies, a lot of them, they don't have a voice. They're not very interesting, and they don't have good storytelling. And as a writer, the narrative is very important to me. And AJ Foyt had the narrative and the voice where I was like, all right, I'm sucked in. Like, this guy, he's hard-headed. He's a real son of a bitch. I have a lot of respect for that. Fellow Texan, now that I've adopted that.
Yep.
So
That's
give him
cool.
a shout out.
Yep. You know that he almost raced at Bathurst way back in 1977?
Did he?
He almost did. It didn't happen, sadly.
That'd be so cool.
Let me tell you, I'll quickly tell you the story. So General Motors tried to entice AJ Foyt to come to Australia to do the Bathurst 1000, the 1000k race here in 1977. And it was significant that year because 1977 was the year of Queen Elizabeth's 25th anniversary jubilee because 25 years since she was coronated. So it was a fairly big deal back in the day, but it became the most international race of that time up until that point because Jackie Ickx went to Bathurst, raced with the late Alan Moffat, won Bathurst in that year, and that was the year of the famous 1-2 finish by the Ford Motor Company. Carroll Smith came out from America to run the team, and the culmination was that 1-2 finish. But General Motors tried to bring AJ Foyt out to race for the Holden dealer team, which was the quasi factory team. Yeah, we'll call it the factory Holden team, the GM team. But because General Motors had the policy of no factory involvement in motorsport, which has long since changed now. Then obviously, thankfully, yes. But back in that time, because it was through the dealer team effort, through the dealers, they tried to entice AJ Foyt to come out and drive with a lovely gentleman by the name of John Harvey, who went on to win Bathurst eventually. But he, sadly, Foyt had to pull out. He was all ready to go, but then there was a conflict of interest that came up, and he said, "I can't make it." So they had the numbers ready for him. They were going to carry.
Cool.
He had number 14 ready to go. He was ready to drive it. And in the end, he had to pull out, and he never made it to Bathurst. So, and there was some influence as well from the Australian perspective by the media through Mike Raymond, who was a very prominent Australian commentator, personality, had a lot of American links through his involvement with Dirt Track Speedway. So he knew AJ Foyt quite well. So he played his part to try and bring Foyt over. As I said, never happened. But the one good thing that they did in honour was they carried Foyt's number for Bathurst, so they stuck with that number. So there was,
I love that.
Yeah, but Johnny Rutherford was there that year in 1977 too.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, he did do Bathurst, Johnny Rutherford. Janet Guthrie as well.
So cool.
So a couple of Americans
Love
that were
her.
there. So and we know Janet Guthrie is an icon, absolute icon.
Yes.
So you didn't
Queen,
know,
a legend.
She's an absolute.
I did not know.
You did not know? Yeah, no. So Janet Guthrie drove with Johnny Rutherford, not for the factory GM team, the Holden team. I have to remind myself, called General Motors. But the pair of them drove for a dealer team of sorts, like a actual dealership team. An Australian by the name of Ron Hodgson. He's long since passed, but he was the defending team defending the crown because his team won Bathurst the previous year, and there's some very famous footage where the car was falling apart, it was blowing diff oil out the rack, and it was slow as anything, and they held on to win. Bob Morris won the race with John Fitzpatrick, the endurance driver, John Fitzpatrick, and they're back to defend their crown. They entered a second car, and it was for Rutherford and Guthrie. Sadly, Johnny clashed with a smaller car, and he hit the bank at the top of the mountain, and he never made it. In fact, Janet never even got to drive. So, but it was a tough task, for both Janet and John to adapt to right-hand drive, a car they've never driven before. It was
The time zone change, the travel that I'm sure. I know it took a way longer time back then than it did today.
Absolutely. But there you go. There's a bit of a story there.
That's so cool. I'm gonna have to dig into that.
You will have to, and it's a very cool story. I might be a little bit off with the Ford information, but the bulk of it you'll understand. So, but it's a very cool story.
Amazing.
But one wonders. But there was always another thing before we move back onto the Dream Garage is that Paul Newman. There was always these rumours every year. Paul Newman coming to Australia and race the Bathurst. It never happened. So, but it was always brought up.
Cool.
It would have been cool. Same when Tom Cruise. You know, like who knows.
Yeah. If you speak it into the world, maybe you can manifest it. But I guess it didn't happen.
What's the second car in your dream garage?
A 1968 Corvette. Ideally with the tri-power big block engine, the beefy boy. That is the first car when I was a kid that I laid eyes on and went,
yes.
oh my God, that's insane. I would love to have it just for that fact of like, it's really the first one. I grew up around cars, but going to car shows, that was one that like stopped me dead in my tracks.
Yeah, that's iconic when you think about the Corvette Stingray. It is, and the Stingray variant as well. I mean, that is that's just to die for. Like the amount of engine like variations like you could have in that car, from a 305 cubic inch to a 454, a 7.4 litre V8. Are we talking a 427 or a 454? What would you have?
I do the 427.
That's iconic. The 7 litre motor.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Wow. Like, what can you say about that car? It is just like, the most expensive one, just so you know, a 1969 L88 lightweight Corvette, one of only 4 lightweight Corvettes to be produced in that spec, sold by Barrett Jackson in 2014 for $2.86 million.
It's a good thing I'm a billionaire.
Yes, exactly. You could afford that now. Like, you probably double in price. So,
I know.
But like the styling and it's just
The styling, just a gorgeous, like unique machine. The turning heads. That's what I want.
53,000 were produced. That's just
I know.
doesn't sound much, but for what it was, just beautiful, utterly beautiful.
Yeah.
Finally, the
Gorgeous.
third dream car, bike, or machine. What would it be?
A Bugatti Type 35, ideally the 1930 35B from the Grand Prix racing season.
Oh,
Yeah. Isn't that a gorgeous machine?
introduced in 1927. Now, I've watched some old films of this. You might know of them. The Shell History of Motor Racing. You find them occasionally float on YouTube if you look them up. But there's like those cars in the 1920s. I mean, they were
Stunning. Stunning. I love the Grand Prix versions because they're like the Art Deco, but they're still stripped down and like built for racing. I know it would be like primitive as hell to drive. I'm sure it would be like not comfortable at all, but just could you imagine like the wind in your hair, the sound of that bad boy, like just wrestling with it? Oh my God, that's so cool.
Oh my goodness. Like, it was built between 1924 to 1930, but that particular car, like Bugatti for years in that early era of Grand Prix racing, they refused to do supercharging because superchargers were like the big thing to have. This is long before turbos and that came along, but supercharging was the thing to do because that's how you stayed competitive. Bugatti refused to do that, but then they eventually relented and they went and took on supercharging. But my goodness, it is just absolutely beautiful. When it was naturally aspirated, it was introduced at the French Grand Prix in 1924. It was introduced in the Type 35B around that time at the Targa compressor, but it became the T35B. It had the 2.3 litre motor in it, which shared it with the Type 35T. So we're talking, just looking at so we're looking at a straight 8. So a straight A motor, not a V8, straight A single overhead cam motor, which produced, very paltry in today's terms.
Yeah.
Between 60 to 130 brake horsepower, but for its time. But then when you add on the supercharger, it was quite a machine for its time. As you said, very primitive. And don't think about safety. Who thought about safety in 1920s?
Who needs it? I'm putting on my little racing cap and my short sleeve shirt and I'm going out there.
It was one of the most dangerous times in motoring, no question. And like there were a lot of people that were killed during that era, but that's the risk you took back in the day. That was it was just it was fast but fragile, and you had to look after. And those races back then, those Grand Prix, They weren't like 90 minutes. They took hours to complete.
Hours. And on 23 to, plus mile racetracks that were running just right through the woods, just absolute chaos.
It won the Monaco Grand Prix in 1929, plus it done the Targa Florio as well, which is like one of the great road rallies of its time, which sadly is no longer around, but that is just, my goodness. In Bugatti,
a good legacy there.
In French blue, it's just, it's just...
You got to have it in the French blue.
Absolutely. That is just classic. I love it. It's a classic dream garage. The Ford Mustang Mark I with the Coyote motor, the Chevrolet Corvette Stingray with the 427 motor, and the Bugatti Type 35B. That is just utterly beautiful. That is just...
If I could walk out to my garage and see that, I don't think I would ever leave my garage unless I was driving one of them.
I'm absolutely impressed. It's, really, really cool. That's a very good dream garage and a great way to end this chat. Actually, before we do go, a couple of things. Firstly, your favourite racetracks. I didn't ask that before. I want to know your favourite racetracks.
Watkins Glen absolutely has a special place in my heart.
Yep.
But in terms of tracks that I love to watch racing on, I do love Interlagos. I think it's just a phenomenal track. I also love the Indy 500, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. I think that is just seeing cars go that fast is still mind-boggling, and I've been doing this for, how many years now. Just phenomenal.
What about favourite driver?
Favorite driver? We talking F1, we talking IndyCar.
Both.
In IndyCar, it's Joseph Newgarden. I've been repping Joseph Newgarden since he was at Sarah Fisher Hartman Racing back in the day.
Wow.
Yeah, very nice boy. I am a Team Penske fan though, so Scott McLaughlin, love it. Will Power, still Team Penske in my heart, even though he's racing for Andretti.
Yeah,
love him. In Formula One, it's tough now because I don't have many favorites, but I was rooting for Oscar Piastri last year. Yeah. Edge of my seat, like he's gonna come back. He's gonna find a way. It didn't happen, but I think he's still got it in him. It's been fun. Like, I think the thing I like about when I like drivers is being able to see their improvements, and it is phenomenal how much Piastri has improved over the past years that he's been in F1. It is just, from that first season where he was fine to contending for a championship and absolutely dominating the early part of the 2025 season. Like, that's good stuff.
Yeah, I really hope Oscar can win the World Championship. And you'll be following the Formula One circus throughout season 2026. And can't wait to read about it and hear about it on your podcast as well. So I'm really excited. Deadly Passions, Terrible Joys is the podcast to listen to throughout the 2026 season on all podcast platforms, wherever you listen. So it's been a joy to have you on the podcast, Elizabeth. Thank you so much for being so generous with your time, and good luck for
Thank you for having me.
Oh, so enjoy talking about cars and everything else. It is so fun.
It is my favorite thing to do.
It is. It is my favorite thing to do, and I love talking about cars. When you've grown up with cars all your life in a family that's not into cars, it's a bit hard, but they understand, and eventually they respect you for it. And I've made it a career now, which is really cool. Makes it much more fun.
That's special.
Exactly. Thank you so much again. All the best for the 26th season. And fingers crossed, we'll see an American on the grid in Formula One soon. We've got two teams now, Cadillac and Haas. But for me, I want Oscar Piastri to win the World Championship.
Let's hope. I think he's got it for 2027 or 2026. Excuse me, 26.
Let's not jump too far ahead. Don't say Lando's won it again.
2027 is Colton Herta's year.
I love it. Thanks for coming on and having a chat. It's been great.
Thank you.
I was extremely impressed by Elizabeth's dream garage. American muscle car heritage with the Ford Mustang Fastback and Chevrolet Corvette, sitting next to a real piece of early Grand Prix history with the Bugatti Type 35B. The 35B would achieve great success in the late 1920s, winning the Monaco Grand Prix in 1929 and the Targa Florio between 1925 and 1929. An incredible car with an incredible heritage. Elizabeth sure knows plenty about cars, and I highly recommend you listen to her podcast, Deadly Passions, Terrible Joys, which you can find wherever you listen to your podcasts. You can also check out her website at elizabeth-blackstock.com and follow her on her socials. We'll put up the links to the podcast and her socials in the show notes, as well as the Motor Dream podcast website. A huge thank you to Elizabeth for being such a wonderful guest. For our Australian listeners, you can watch the opening round of the 2026 Formula One World Championship, the Australian Grand Prix, on Fox Sports 506 and KO Sports, or if you prefer the free-to-air option, you can watch it on Network 10. For our American listeners, you can tune in to the opening round of the World Championship, the Australian Grand Prix, exclusively on Apple TV. You will need a subscription to watch all rounds of the 26th season. The address to visit the Motor Dream podcast website is themotordream.com.au, where you can listen to past episodes, find more information on each of our guests, and also on the show itself. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram with the handle The Motor Dream, and you can start a conversation about your dream garage by using the hashtag TheMotorDream. Or drop us a line on what your dream garage would be, or leave us some feedback on the show itself. Our email is themotordream@beastproductions.com.au. Lastly, make sure to like and subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts, be it Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, YouTube Music, and now you can find us on the Podbean app. Thanks for listening, and remember to drive or ride safely out on the roads wherever you go. We'll be back for another episode in a couple of weeks' time, where my guest features the best mullet in Australian motorsport. It's Aussie racing cars driver Cody McKay. For now, thanks for listening to the first episode of Season 3, and we'll see you next time on the Motor Dream Podcast. Bye for now.
Thanks for listening to the Motor Dream Podcast. This series is proudly produced by Beast Productions.